friends.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Dudecast 2.0.
Part 2, baby.
Part 2.
We back.
Yep. My wife, Jeannie, is in Italy helping someone on a retreat. So I am on my own.
That's right.
It means lots of steaks and
Man
burgers.
time. And transcendental meditation.
We were just talking about this before. I decided my professional development budget will be to be trained in transcendental meditation. And it started on Sunday. Today's Wednesday. Today's the final day. And then after this session, I will be trained to do it for myself.
There you go.
And see, now, before transcendental meditation, the thing I was pushing most that I think everyone should have you got to try this.
Mm-hmm.
It was sleep gummies.
Yep. Sleep gummies.
You got to try this. Like something tall, just small. Just a little thing. Take the edge off, get you going. I'm like, this stuff is amazing.
This will make me fall asleep.
Because I already had trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. I'm like, oh my God. So that has shifted.
Mm-hmm.
My new thing that I will be a pusher of for people to look into and try is definitely this practice.
That's awesome.
I can't say enough things. I've only done it. This is my 4th day, so I've done it like 7 times, maybe.
Okay.
So like.
Well,
barely.
you floated in here when I came here. I was like, oh, wow.
Like, something's different. No, it is so good.
That's awesome.
I remember reading about it and seeing people speak about it, and yeah, I'm already feeling kind of like the benefits. It's like a nice brain, physical, nervous system reset.
That's so
for
cool.
the middle of your day.
That's awesome.
Right? Yeah.
You should do it on Instagram Live.
Right.
Do it.
It would be so boring. It would be literally just sitting there. That's all. It would just be me.
It would be so funny. We're like, all right, everyone come and join Matt for transcendental meditation. It's just you in silence.
20 minutes of this. And then the bell goes off, and I just slowly open my eyes. Like,
I'm not kidding. You totally could. It would be so funny. Oh, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
So today.
Unique
perspective
perspective that we have. Today is about what it's like to be married to hippie witches.
That's right.
And I this comes up and has for years.
Mm-hmm.
But still comes up, even though Jeannie and I have been married for 9.5 years. We've been together for 10 or it's got to be 11 or 12. And it definitely on the front end, it was like every other day. It was like, what is this? What are you doing? I don't know the words you just said.
Oh my God!
It's less frequent as time goes on, but it's still there. And we have a little bit of a difference because mainly when you and Francine met, you had already done a YTT.
I did. I was already engulfed in the hippie witchness.
Yeah. So you had a toe in that pool, so to speak, and
did.
we're just like, hey, you were aware of a lot of the stuff. Where I had a lot of
adjustments.
Questions.
Yeah, I bet.
Adjustments. So I generated a list. If you can see, I have notes.
I love it.
I got a little bullet-pointed list of some of categories, and we can go from there.
I love it.
In no particular order, the one I think this may have been this first or second most common way to see this type of stuff is in medicine.
Yeah.
Like, you get sick, you get a cold, you got this ailment, you have that ailment. And, I go for, in my parents' house growing up, it was like the cabinet, and it was just like the CVS pharmacy. It was all right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Tylenol, ibuprofen,
all the
whatever,
good stuff.
all this over-the-counter, whatever you could ever think of, we had it.
All the prescriptions my mom did not throw away.
That's right. The stuff you save for later, just in case you get the same thing again.
We had so much of that. So I kind of brought that into the relationship.
Nice.
And then was slowly introduced.
Naturopathic.
So other weird. I mean, I'm saying.
Weird.
It's funny because when 2 weeks ago, it was either allergies or got a cold. I was sick, not feeling well. I didn't even really. I went to ibuprofen. Okay. And then I was like, okay, what other kind of real stuff do I need to do? It's like, well, make the tea. It's got the oranges and the turmeric.
That's right.
All the dirt medicine. Because I remember one of the first times being handed a cup of something to drink. And
Mud.
I'm just like, I'm like, why are there dirt in my medicine? What is this?
Did you get this from the garden?
Pretty. Well, I mean, that's on the list
it's
too.
Coming. Yeah,
that one's coming. So what was Did you have a knowledge of that stuff beforehand?
No, I definitely didn't. I think that for me, I never had. I was familiar that Jeannie was into it for sure, and had seen it being at your place. But other than that, I mean, Francine, she more introduced me to living with somebody who was into it. You know, and for me, I think the first thing was the hanging of plants.
Yeah.
So like all like there's there's I don't even remember the names of what she has, but it's like echinacea or like whatever, just bundles,
right?
You know, hanging, and I'm like, oh, okay,
right. Is there a reason they're
about?
hanging around?
We're drying them out.
Yeah,
I mean, like for later, or what do we do?
I guess that was. I mean, yeah, Jeannie likes to. If she had her way 1,000%, in 10 years' time, our house will look like. I don't know if you've watched Outlander.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so like the later seasons when they're living in like Fraser's Ridge.
Yeah,
yeah. You know, like Claire's whole medicine side.
Yeah.
That's if she could snap her fingers and make it look like that, with not just the decor and color scheme, but the jars upon jars.
Oh my God, the jars, dude.
Of
everything.
Of everything.
Jars of just
stuff hanging. I can't even. Yeah, there's definitely like echinacea, lavender, and it just looks like an apothecary, which is a pretty cool look.
Oh, I love the way it looks is awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
It could be just an aesthetic, and I would enjoy it.
And sometimes it is.
Yeah,
you know, sometimes it is just an aesthetic because you can't be a witch every single second.
No,
you know.
Yeah, but
you can try.
But like this first, I mean, like because I knew we were growing this stuff, and she had it or were purchasing it for a purpose. And then like the second phase was like, ew, it literally is everywhere. Like it's hanging in the kitchen over like the plates. It's in the mud room or the wood stove room, and it just looks like we just pick up sticks and we're hanging them up. And I don't know what all this is supposed to be, but you know what, honey? If it makes you happy,
that's all that's what we're here for. That's right. That's exactly I feel the same way. I think like. I think that I was, you know, we're always fighting for counter space. And so it's like the jars, there's so many jars, you know, and I'm like, wow, look at all these jars, you know. And I was, Francine and Jeannie always joke about how they love baskets, but I think they also equally love jars.
They do love jars.
And
now that you say that.
Maybe that's the motivation.
I remember like an order from Amazon came and I didn't know what it was, and I opened it up and it was just like 24. I mean, small ones, maybe, you know, 6 to 8 ounces or something like that. Not very big. And I'm just like, what are you opening? Like, I guess you're trying to be Claire. This is exactly what it is. Like, so, I mean, it just felt good. At least, like, there's a plan for the hanging nature garbage.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a plan for it.
Well, my son brings in sticks. You know, he's constantly bringing sticks to the porch. He's like, "This is gonna be a bow and arrow." It's like, all right, I don't know about that, but we'll see. And it's his mom does it too. So it's like, you know, there's something to grab. She's gonna grab it.
It's just different. I mean, you know, what's funny is that like I would poke fun and be like, "This is silly" or whatever, but you're totally right. Where like I remember being young and being like, "This stick is awesome. Yeah, this stick is coming in the house.
I have to keep this one. This is the stick I've been looking for."
Stick is amazing. Now, is it like some sort of like callback, like genetically from our hunter gatherer days?
Oh, I'm sure.
Where we're like, oh, this can be used to fashion a weapon for the hunt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, we just like pretty rocks. You know, like we like pretty, like it's like we are so simple. It's in some ways, it's like, you know, pretty rocks are like a big part of our economy.
They are, and
like human culture.
It's funny because inside our house there are definitely rooms, mainly where she does her yoga, where she does her teaching.
Yeah,
and you could walk in there and see different collections of rocks.
Oh yeah,
of just like rocks,
just rocks.
Yeah,
they look like just rocks at least. You know,
on
to me.
And the surface, if you just kind of gave it a one-time glance, you'd be like, it's a pile of rocks.
Those are some nice rocks you got there.
Good rocks.
And then I feel like I say that to my son too, like to my toddlers. You know, oh, cool rocks.
Those are awesome
wow,
rocks.
Look at that, and they're like.
Well, it's funny. We have a playhouse for Luna, our granddaughter, in the yard, in the patio, and there's like a little thing that folds out into like a table, and on the table is like 2 or 3 rocks that she found and just like put there.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah, it's an awesome rock.
Yeah.
And
it's simple. I think that I think that is a big part of it, is the connection with nature.
Mm.
I think that is a driver for both of them. I think that for Francine, that's definitely one of the things that she finds most valuable about it.
Yeah.
Is like that it's bringing something that is readily available to us into our lives in a way that is like without all the middlemen
Right.
ripping it all apart
Yep.
and adding supplements and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. It's like there are those things we can use that are proven to be beneficial, but it's also, I think it's like there's a granularity to it as well.
And it's like that connection to nature is so, it's funny because you don't think about it until you're out in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think to yourself, here. I think about, you know what? It's funny now that you say that with sticks. For me, I'm stuck on the sticks.
I like it. We're two dudes talking about sticks, man. I knew we were gonna land here.
It's we have a fire pit in our backyard, and I mean, we want to talk about our connection to nature and our like hunter-gatherer ancient roots, right? I go to like, what is the best fire stick? Like, give me like, it's got to be a certain amount of girth, width, length. You know what I mean? Like, what is going to be the best to like poke the fire when it needs it?
What's going to be? Yeah. It's not going to break. It's
No.
not going to light up right away.
Yeah.
I know. I totally know what you mean.
And it's funny because, I mean, I think Francine and Jeannie could also talk about this, like the nature garbage side, because it's like we're like, oh yeah, they're growing these weird plants and they're hanging in the house, and they're like, these guys finding sticks to poke fires and do all this other silly stuff. And it's like, wow, you know what? I didn't know that I had such a connection to nature garbage as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why we found them.
Yeah.
We're a match,
Nuts.
in that way. But I think you're right in the sense that everybody is really looking to connect with nature and it's super simple and beneficial if you have an opportunity to, but it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget because you know what I also like? Air conditioning. Like, it's like now that it's hot out and I'm starting to sweat again, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, that's right. It's like I'm soaked, all the time anywhere I go. So I do. I love that. And
it's funny they see you like air conditioning. Did you put your air conditioner in yet?
No.
Okay. I can't bring myself to do it before June 1st.
I know.
It's like putting the heat on in like November. I'm like, no way.
I know what you mean. And they're just the worst to put in. It's just the hardest thing. There's something about it. It's like an awkward angle, and I'm just like, it's falling out the window. Every time I'm like, it's going to fall. 100% it's going to fall.
Well, it's funny because like every memory I have of installing or putting in an air conditioner is not on a day or week like this week where maybe it's 75. And you're like, we're going to use this in 2 weeks, so do it now. No, it's on a day where it's 88 degrees.
Exactly.
I am drenched in
cooked,
sweat.
Yes.
I'm screwing in the screws to hold it in, and sweat's just pouring off my head.
Yeah, that is what it is. I can barely see as I'm installing it because
like,
my eyes are just soaked.
Why didn't I do this in April when it was not?
Because
it
sucks.
Oh, but one thing I didn't put out is in yet, but yeah, you know what I kind of like, the feeling I kind of love, and this is going to sound a little weird. You know when, if you're downstairs in your home, and if you live in a 2-story home, right, and it's kind of one temperature downstairs, kind of cool, it's warm, comfortable, but then you go up the stairs and you can feel that where it's like, oh, it's warmer up here.
It's
that
getting
like
hotter as
little
I step.
humor. I love that.
Do you?
I do. I love that feeling because to me it just means summer. So maybe I still think of like youth summers where it's like
summer's the best thing ever.
swimming,
Yeah.
baseball,
Absolutely.
all that fun stuff. So I'm
Yes.
just like, I kind of like this.
It is a particular feeling for sure. And it happens in older houses specifically,
Right.
I think, the most. Our house is like that, where it's like our downstairs stays cool. Like it stays cool all day.
Yeah.
It's like in the shade. It has like good circulation with the way it's designed. But our upstairs is like, they could be two different houses for sure.
15 degrees warmer easily.
But it is a good feeling. That's true. I was thinking about that. Certain things that like today smelled like summer.
Yeah.
Today was the first day where I was like, it's like the grass has been cooking for a while. Like the 3 days in a row of the heat makes it like there's a certain particular dryness that I love.
I know. Yeah. It's again, I mean, this episode is like being married to hippie witches, but I think it's like subtitle our connection to our ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors.
Yeah,
we're just like, this is just like memories of childhood and like, why do we love like the smells and the heat of summer? It's like, oh, maybe we know it's like time to plant, and we're just
and we love to be outside. So it's like all of these things are actually our bodies telling us like, get ready to sweat, bro. Here we go. Like because it's muscle memory.
Yeah.
And I think that it probably is a connection to way back.
Way back.
But that's why we like it.
That's why we like
That's
it.
why we like being outside, and that's why we like our wives, because they love.
They make us go outside.
They make us go outside, and they connect us with nature. But I remember with Francine, just definitely her witchiness is driven by her being a teacher. Like I think for her, she thinks about it as like she feels the benefits of it, and then tries to think of ways to include that in her teaching. And so. More recently has gotten into like cacao ceremonies.
Oh yeah,
which I'm like, chocolate? Okay, but it's but it was funny when she explained it. I'm like, this is a hot plate you bought.
Right.
Like this is a hot plate. Like, and I'm like, what about a regular pan? But it's it's her thing. So I let her ride.
Yeah, Jeannie has participated in several, especially when they were in Costa Rica over the years, and. She just described it as this very moving ritual
it's awesome.
ceremony.
It's the coolest thing.
Which I have not experienced, I'll say yet, because I'm sure I will.
Oh, you will. Yeah. Definitely. Now, especially now.
Oh, yeah.
You're coming over. There's these very little cups, and they're so cool. They're like little glass cups, like that are ceramic. And, yeah, it is a beautiful ritual and ceremony. It really is. And the cacao is very different than like a chocolate.
Right, yeah.
It's like it makes it opens your pores.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like
it's intense.
A rush actually from it, and like an endorphin rush. It's really cool.
Well, I was telling my transcendental meditation teacher yesterday about like what made me look for it, and I had this thought a couple years ago, but I'm really diving in now. It's like looking around. I'm like, I want to get into what I would have thought 10 years ago would be like weird stuff.
I like that.
Stuff that's out there, alternative like healing practices, physical practice, anything like that. I am so down for new weird stuff that I'm just like, sign me up.
I think that I was going to ask you that actually. That's going to be my next question. Have you always been open to like, because you're from Iowa. I'm from
I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, you're from New Jersey?
Yep. Yep. Grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
My sister moved out because her husband at the time got a job. He was a poultry.
Oh my God, I always thought you were.
Yeah, no, he's a poultry vet. Got a great job at this company in Iowa. So they moved out. She had 2 girls and a family out there, while my parents still lived in Jersey,
okay.
and I lived, upstate New York.
Yeah.
And then about 2017, my mother and father essentially retired. They're like, we're just going to move to Iowa.
Cool.
So they transplanted. They lived there. And, yep. So we are from there. But
how interesting. That's. I always thought that your whole family was there. Okay, so New Jersey.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is hilarious.
So, where in New Jersey? Like in
we lived in Hamilton.
Okay.
Which is kind of in the middle, just like maybe between where Trenton and Princeton are.
Okay.
So like maybe half hour from the beach.
Okay.
10 minutes from the river.
So like suburban type vibe?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So like that, man, that's cool. Because Francine's from New York City.
Yeah.
So thinking about and Jeannie's from...
She's from around here.
From here. Yep. So like it's like that. For me, I was like, my mom didn't have any of this, just like you said.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. But when you first were introduced, have you always been like kind of open-minded to like what your partner is into, or is it like a Jeannie thing?
I was definitely always kind of like, I'm pretty easygoing and like I'm into
not
trying
too
out.
steadfast in like how you were raised or anything like that.
No, not really. Just always willing to be like, I'll try it out. You know what I mean?
That's good.
But there were definitely like limits to like how outside of my comfort zone I would want to be.
Because it's like also a slow walk, to being in an acceptance of like, oh, I think this is valuable too.
Right.
Like it's like you think it's valuable because you trust the person, obviously,
right.
and you know that they're not doing nothing. But also you could be like, so moon water.
Right. That is that inflection fits with so much of this list.
Yes, it does.
And I don't think there is one item on this list that stayed true to that original idea of like, really?
So moon
really?
water.
I have stories and evidence from every single thing that I've seen that's just like, okay, there is
some reasons for
there's
this.
too much to this.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it work.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer, so like I can't I can't just say, oh, this is silly out of hand. You know what I mean? I can't be like,
That's a cheat code for life, though, man.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I like that because that's I try to live that way too. That's always been kind of my mentality in that way. Is like, if you're to not be closed off, because I think that is probably how we got to convince our wife scenario.
Hey,
because
man,
if we weren't open-minded,
no. If I could be a stubborn person, but I kind of like. I wasn't stubborn about saying no immediately and not trying.
Because I feel some guys would laugh their partners out of the room.
Right.
I'd always be like, my friends from home would be like,
a little skeptical. They're like, okay, and I want this to go somewhere, so I'm not going to crap on it now.
Right. Especially if somebody is if they like it enough to show you.
Right. That's right.
It's like there's some. I would never be the type of person to be like, unless we were really far into our relationship.
Right. Yeah.
But that makes sense. Yeah. I don't think you get far, or you don't learn much from being closed off.
And definitely in the past 2 to 3 years, I'm just like, hit me with more.
I love it.
Like I want more
That's
of
awesome.
like the weird out what we considered weird out there. I'm like, I want a deep dive.
You're growing, man. That's what growing is. That's like I think that's what we're in the business of here.
Hey,
sort
that's
of.
what we do. Wi-Fi.
You fell into it.
I did.
You fell in the pool.
Oh, ass backwards, right in. All right, so we're talking about medicine now. Give me one example of a medicinal thing Francine has given you.
Oh yeah.
To be like, and maybe your reaction initially was like, oh, you sure?
For sure. When I was sick, I think when I got really sick. I can't remember what it was. It was either like a sinus infection or something, and she put together something with I think she probably got the recipe from Jeannie actually, that I looked at and I was like, I don't know if I can do it.
Like,
like
are the drugs that I'm used to like being served my whole life in this
they
thing?
don't usually have a taste.
Yeah.
Not like a taste for a long time. But it's also like but I did. I mean, I definitely it convinced me because it like there's certain
yeah.
like that type of thing.
Yep.
And so that made me a believer. But I'm like I totally believe in that.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the only reason we even have medicine is from doing stuff like this.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I trust it.
Most fascinated by the idea that like everything that like you could need to help cure you is around.
Yeah,
right?
and it grows, and it's like, and it's findable.
Right.
Like I think it's a concept we've gotten very far from.
Yeah.
Like
for me, it was turmeric.
Because
it was
the biggest thing. Yes, without a doubt.
Turmeric,
I was gonna say.
And I know that is supposed to help with inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jeannie says I have to, and I have been, honey, if you're listening, I've been doing it, taking ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha is amazing, too.
I've only been doing it once a day in the morning. Probably need to do it twice. I don't know why I take that.
Is it like a coffee version of it, or what is it?
Well,
like
I mean, it comes in pills.
Yeah.
But fun story, I have a very narrow esophagus. I have trouble swallowing pills, so I just take them apart, dump it in some water, swish it around, and just shoot it back.
There we go. That works.
Don't know why I do that, but yeah, for me it was like the honey orange turmeric combo where I'm like, what is this? Is this a? And then like after a day and a half of that and feeling better, it's like, well, I lost all right to argue.
That's right. I'm not pushing back anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah.
All right. Another thing. How about? You know what? I'm going to read off a list. You tell me which one you want to go next. All right. We got food and drink.
Okay.
Yoga practices.
Mm-hmm.
The gardening and nature garbage, which we sort of touched on.
Mm-hmm.
Tarot, and in conjunction, magic/spells. Rituals and holidays, such as like Samhain and Beltane, like stuff like that.
So definitely Jeannie goes a little harder than Francine in some of these categories. When it comes to the holidays, Francine doesn't. She's not into that yet.
Okay,
I'm sure she'll get there.
Yeah, I have. Now it's only that because on Jeannie and I, our personal podcast, we've done episodes on some of the holidays. Like we did one around Halloween time about Samhain, which I was like, Samhain, her. And she's like, no. And she's always like, we could talk about this. And I'm like, oh, is that time of year? Is that what it is? What's this one? It's like Beltane, which I think is beginning of May.
I don't know.
Maybe. Well, it's like, and then there's like in bulk, which
I know.
is
Yep.
around
Easter.
No,
No.
I think it's around Groundhog Day, like early February. Yes, because it means in the belly.
Oh, that's right.
So it's like
okay.
things you want to grow in the spring. You start either like prepping it, getting it ready. Like that can just be like the food you want to start growing in the spring, or just like creativity, ideas, inspiration, like the stuff that's going to gestate. And
Cool.
just like, yeah. But like the way I think is so cool about it, it's like there's the two solstice,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And then there's the equinoxes between those.
Right.
And then in between those, there's other things, right?
Right.
It's like every 6 weeks
Mm-hmm.
is something, and it just like lines up with the calendar, and I'm always just fascinated by like, ooh, which one is this?
Oh, and I love holidays. I celebrate any chance I get.
Right.
I'm like a big celebrator. I'm always like, oh, we're celebrating. We're celebrating. That's how my Francine always laughs about it. She's like, you always are celebrating. I'm like, that's right.
That is so funny.
Every day.
Because it's like the more I realize and actually reflect on my own behavior, totally the same.
Yeah.
Love. I mean, even like, there's the big ones, it's like Christmas and Thanksgiving, all that stuff. But even like the fun ones that we kind of make up and aren't really real, but they are real, like Star Wars Day.
Yeah, May the 4th.
May the 4th.
Absolutely.
It's like, we are.
That stuff is fun.
Yeah. Well, we had one that was like called Tabletop Day, where years and years ago, there was a website that started this thing called Tabletop Day, and it was about tabletop board gaming. And like they would hook up with like other game stores and be like do promotions. It was just like a celebration of the hobby. So I'm like, that's say less.
Hell yeah.
I got this.
That's
so
what's up.
like it was always a Saturday in the spring. So like a few weeks ago, the Saturday where she like after she got back before she left again, she was like, let's have a tabletop day. So like we got up, coffee. We got like 5 or 6 games, and we're just like line them up. Boom, let's play this one a couple of times. Doing this one, and it was just like because of our schedules are like insane.
Yeah.
Like we haven't. I don't know if we've done it in a while, or like we don't have those kind of days as much. But I'm like, this is just a celebration of some nerdy stuff we love. And this is amazing.
Well, that's sort of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
It's like we're celebrating some nerdy stuff that our wives are into.
Yep.
Which is I think it is it's a chance to get out of yourself to enjoy someone else's hobbies and interests.
Enjoy someone else's stuff.
And I think that it takes, that's like the fun part about being in a relationship. It's like learning from them about things that I would never have ever looked into or thought about. You know, like I would have, there's no chance I would have stumbled upon filling a bunch of jars up with stuff. Like that just for me is I'm not organized enough.
Would I ever in my life fill up jars to make my own assortment of bombs?
Yes, some
Never
bombs. Yeah,
in a million years. And you know what? At home, there are jars, and I swear to God, we have had these jars for years. I don't know if they gain potency with just leaving it in there. I'm assuming maybe.
I hope so, yeah.
Why else do we move them from house to house? I don't know. But it must be strong.
Yeah, it's strong stuff. That's right.
But it's, it goes kind of both ways, and it is fun to do. And I always have to remember to not initially, because sometimes you want to be like, what is this?
I know.
And it's more of like easier to be like, hit me with it.
Let's
I'm into
go.
it.
Show me. Yeah.
It reminds me of a conversation Jeannie and I had 2016.
Okay.
Because the Cubs were in the World Series, right?
Great year.
So the conversation was like, I was like, oh, honey, did we watch the game or whatever? Do you see what's going on? She's like, what's going on? I'm like, the Cubs, man. It's like, they do this. Yeah, they do. It's a big deal. And she's like, oh, are they the ones that sing that Neil Diamond song? I'm like, no, that's the Red Sox. Also equally important if they win, because it's been a while kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, is that did they sing that at halftime? I'm like, halftime? Honey.
Yeah, same way. Yeah.
So it's like,
you
there's
adjust.
those moments.
But it's also like it's a give and take. It's like Francine will watch football with me, and I'm saying I'll ask her. We did the first time I ever put it on because her brothers like football. She's got 3 brothers.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right. So like you probably have like at least some of an understanding about sports in general, right? Like anything at all. And we were sitting there watching football, and it was probably for like a good 25, 30 minutes. I'm like, hey, do you know what's happening? She's like, not at all. She's like, I have no clue. And I'm like, you didn't say a word. She's like, yeah, but you liked it so much. It's like, all right, well, I appreciate you.
Well-
and it is silly too. Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so silly.
Oh,
Like,
of course.
sports is silly too.
Well, it's
you
a
know?
similar thing. So it's like it's about being vulnerable enough to want to learn something.
Yeah.
And like we joke about like football and this stuff, but like to ask the questions like, oh, why did you use this ingredient in this balm or
What does
this
this
tea?
do?
What does
Yeah.
this do? And it's like also she's like, I don't. It's okay if I ask questions. Or I'm like, I want you to.
Please.
Like, please
Yes,
do.
please.
No stupid questions.
Because if you don't ask, I know you're not even looking at it. You're not thinking about it. Like,
It's one of those things. Like I am psyched that you're into it enough to ask a question about something that I like.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, oh, you know what? If I was like, hey, this breathing technique, is this good for this? Like the same level of like, oh, you're in this too. That's so cool that you want to learn about it.
yeah,
Stuff like
it's a pat on the back in a certain sense.
Yeah,
right? It's
right,
giving
like
them reassurance that what they're interested in is interesting to you.
Yeah.
And it's like a reassurance that you guys are supposed to be together.
Right,
Like,
and
that,
like-
you know.
And learning together.
Yeah.
All right. So the holidays.
Yep,
Now,
holidays.
geez, if I couldn't even name them, but I know solstices, equinoxes, and there's things in between. And I apologize.
That's pretty good, though. I mean, we're not the witch. We're not the heavy witches here. We're just trying to remember.
All right. So we got food, yoga practices.
Food definitely is a big one, I think, in
Yeah,
your life, for
it
sure.
is.
Jeannie has brought over amazing concoctions for us when we've been sick
Mm.
or our babies have been sick. And how long has she been doing it?
Oh, since.
She always been into it? Like,
Oh yeah. As far as like the witchy,
Yeah.
hippie witch
Mhm.
food angle,
yeah.
I would have to say yes. I mean, initially that was also the rollout was slow on
Yeah.
that one. This wasn't on like the
The
latest.
first thing she said to
This
you.
wasn't
yeah.
like the latest issue of like or latest Windows.
Right.
It's like bam, here it is.
Here it
So,
is,
Like
yeah.
this is gonna be slow.
Right.
But definitely, it wasn't long before things like kitchery started to be made,
Okay.
and I'm just like, it was like, yeah, I'm gonna make. How do you feel about making kitchery? We're gonna have kitchery tonight.
I don't even know what that is.
Right. I still don't think I could tell you. It's really, you know how I know it's really good for you?
How?
It looks like dirt. It's got beans, legumes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know
Right?
what you're talking
It's
about.
like-
yeah.
It's not mushy like a porridge, but it's like it's got rice and it's got all other stuff. I don't know what makes it kitchery, but it looks like you dug it out of the yard. So then right away I'm like, this has got to be really healthy for me.
Yeah, this is
has
going to be
gotta
good.
So good.
Yeah.
And even now today, she'll be like, she can't even like get through the sentence of like, I'm making kitchery. Would you want some? Because my reaction is like, ugh, is there literally any other option? And thank you.
Oh, my God. Kitchery. It's a cool word, too.
It's a fun word to say.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is. Healthy though. It's very. It's not bad. A little bit of salt goes a long way.
The way you're selling this right now is incredible.
I know. Jeannie is also. This is terrible. I know she definitely does. She would consider herself a vegetarian.
Okay.
She does not eat meat.
Really?
She eats eggs though. She's not a vegan. 'Cause
Okay.
she'll do
Eggs and cheese.
eggs. Not as much cheese, only just because it doesn't make her feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, gluten she's not a fan of.
Okay.
And it's more of just like how it makes her feel.
Okay.
And I try the gluten-free stuff. I really do. It's rough.
It's tough.
It
It's
is.
a tough place to be.
It
It is.
like when we go to Trader Joe's, if I get like the pizza doughs, we make our own pizzas. I get her the gluten-free one, and I try it. I'm just like, doesn't look like pizza.
No.
No.
It's a tough thing. I mean, it's definitely a sacrifice to make. You know, like
Yeah.
that's for sure.
I mean, I will, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still going to be delicious, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, the gluten-free will feel better, probably.
Probably.
But oh man,
But I love bread.
I know.
If it's pizza, I mean, I can't
Can't.
I mean, I'm already eating pizza.
If I'm gonna it's like if I'm gonna shortchange myself on pizza,
Yeah.
why?
What else is there?
Why?
Yeah. What else is there
Why
to
we-
take away from me?
Why are we? Why are we doing this to ourselves?
So do you find yourself eating that way mostly? Because I've been in relationships like that before.
I joke that it's like Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the beginning when
Yeah.
he's like, I don't really eat a lot of hamburgers. My girlfriend's a vegetarian, which means pretty much I'm a vegetarian. Yep. Let's see. 5 years ago and more, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this without judgment.
Yeah.
So, honey, if you're listening, this is a non-judgmental statement. These are all facts.
Yeah, that's right.
She is over cooking. She has cooked for 3+ people.
Yep.
For 20 some odd years.
I feel that.
And she's just like, you know what? I don't
care anymore.
really doing it. Yeah. So like, I handle most of it.
Nice.
Like, I'll do definitely.
So that's good for you then, though.
Definitely grilling. Definitely like, but yeah, she doesn't. But like when the kids were all home
Mm-hmm.
and like even when we just moved up here and before when they're all at school, yeah, it was like that's how I would eat. Like she would like this is dinner, right? Yeah. And it's like okay, we can make a little chicken to go with this. I'm not going to eat the chicken, but everything else is like vegetarian and all vegetables. Yeah, so not as much anymore. And I try to substitute even like I'm not going to make a steak. Right, the steaks happen when she leaves. Basically,
yeah, right. You save those,
which I've had. Only one since her Italy trip. Well, she was away. When they went to California, I had one then.
Okay.
And then I had one last night.
Oh my gosh.
I know,
dude. You gotta have a few more.
I know. It's like, I'll have a.
What kind of steak did you have?
This
is a dude cast, so we're allowed to talk about steaks.
It was a tenderloin cut. It was like this thick. It was a thick one.
There
I got a
go.
cast iron pan that I'm now in love with.
How did you cook it? Do you cook it? I've been doing this lately, and I swear to God, it's the best thing I've ever found out for cooking a steak. So we love like fillets, like like we get the little medallion, whatever. Yeah. And I always hate cooking them in the past because I cook them on the grill and they're so thick, you know, like that. I always end up overcooking them or undercooking the inside. And my whole family wants everything medium well, basically.
Oh, okay.
It's like, I know, gross, but no, but it makes sense because they're kids and stuff like that. They don't want they think it's blood, or whatever. Course. And Francine likes her meat cooked, which I understand. But what I do is I sear one side, turn it over, and then I put it in the oven at 300 degrees.
That is exactly. I did that. I did that last night for the second time. The first time when I cooked it when she was gone, it was the cast iron pan, high heat, 2 minutes on one side, 4 on another, in the oven for 5 minutes at like 350.
Oh my God.
And it was the perfect medium rare.
Oh.
Like I was shocked. I'm like salivating thinking
Me
about
too.
it.
I just got the chills. I just got goosebumps. You can see it.
Oh man, it was so good. Yeah, I mean, like doing it on the grill. I always over or under, and I can't get it right.
I got sold on the grill. You know, everyone knows that's a toxic masculinity thing. Is grills, because grills are awesome for sure, but not everybody loves a grill. No. It's like, and it actually takes a lot of skill to like cook things well on a grill.
You know what I cooked on the grill the other day? I did swordfish steaks.
Oh my God,
like they were pretty cut too. That was like high heat, like 450, right? And like it was like 4 minutes on each side maybe, and it was perfect medium rare for the fish. Like the center was cooked, but it was really soft.
What you mean. Oh, that's what's up. And that's where grills are amazing. Grills are great for fish. They're great for like, but man, I don't know what we got ordered Omaha steaks for Christmas. Wow. Someone sent, my wife's mother sent them to us, and my God, then that they had that as a. They were like, try this. Try cooking it like this. And I was like, I'm not baking my steak.
I know, right? It's like, I thought too, I'm like,
I'm going to roast it?
Right. Like, when I read this, because I read this recipe in this cookbook, is like a man in his kitchen that we found at Barnes & Noble. I'm like, I got to try it. And I was like, on the stove and the oven. Yeah. I would always go straight to the grill.
Every time.
But you know what? I'm trying to grow.
Yep.
So I did it.
That's right. We're trying to grow, Matt. That's what this is all about.
And I don't know if I'll ever grill a steak again.
Yeah, I don't think I will. No. It's a waste. It's totally, because I went back. I did try again. I tried again because I was like, because the way that we did it, it's like, it takes 25 minutes.
Okay.
Like 20 to 25 minutes. Because it's so low, 300 degrees. I'm like, okay, it's barely cooking. But that's why it's juicy. And I failed. I failed. So, so we eat steaks. Our wives do not.
Do not. No. She doesn't even enjoy chicken.
Really?
Yeah, which is like sometimes if she's cooking something and then I'm like, oh, usually, well, she will do this really amazing, like, and it's so simple. It's like either it's like vegetables and rice in a korma sauce or like
Ooh,
a
I
soy
love that.
sauce, and it's either an Indian or Asian type dish. I'm like,
I could take that.
it's like I'm just gonna whip up 2 cutlets and
Yeah.
just throw it in there.
Totally.
And that's one of those things I never, in all of like preparing meals for myself, ever been like, I'm gonna have rice and all these vegetables. I usually like meat.
Meat first. Oh my
Meat-
God, me too. 100%.
It's meat, it's a side, and it's a handful of veggies. And I never think to do it, and I like don't even bother. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, this is really good, and it's all like vegetables, and this is probably a way I need to go often. And she's not wrong.
It will help you live longer.
It's true.
I think that's her goal.
It's absolutely true.
You know, that's good.
Yeah.
What do we got left?
All right, we got
Tarot. Let's talk about tarot.
tarot and spells. Holy cow. This is something I'm almost, I don't want to say afraid.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm the same way.
Right.
I'm 100% the same way.
Now, I first really got exposed to tarot was through Jeannie's mother.
Yep.
Who, she read my tarot like 10 years ago.
Wow.
Right? And it was just like, there is so much to what you're saying right now
Mm-hmm.
that I can't dismiss it.
Right.
It was so ridiculous. Like, I don't know if I told the story about Jeannie's graduation from her YTT.
No.
So she does it in like 2014,
Mhm.
right? So there's like 20 or so people in her class. Like she did it similar to how you did yours, where it's like every weekend or
person,
something like
yeah.
that in person. And when it was over, it was June. It was like the solstice. She's like, let's have all of her like yogis and their families over to our house where we're living
Yeah.
to have like a party, graduation party.
Yeah.
So there are like 20 of her classmates and their spouses and children. There were like 50 people running around the house. And her mother came down and was there and it's like, she's going to sit in the corner of this couch and read tarot to whoever wants to. And I'm just like floating around the party trying to like be helpful and clean up and make sure everyone's having a good time and everything is going well.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time I would walk through the house and past the couch where she was reading for a different person.
Mm-hmm.
That person was in tears because of like whatever
What she was saying, yeah.
whatever unimaginable
Truth.
absolute truth
Yeah, right.
was just being laid in front of her at that point. And I'm just like, okay. I wouldn't go out of my way to piss someone off, but this person is at the top of that list if it ever existed. I'm just like, this is crazy. And just seeing Jeannie does it too. Like she dabbles, I don't say dabbles, but she does pull cards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's always been so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. The kids have like kids decks
Oh, okay.
that they pull
Oh, that's
from,
fun.
and it's a different animal
Oh, cool.
each time. So they love that. They do that before bedtime. And, tarot cards for me is like something that I remember from movies.
Right.
Like gypsies and
Right.
like things like that. And like if you grow up in a Christian Catholic household, they're like, it's the devil. You
Right,
know?
it's
literally
always
the
like-
devil, like is how they describe
Some
it.
sort of like weird mystical
Spirit
power where it's like,
Well,
yeah.
and it's like the natural energy that is, the spiritual world is not so avoidable, like in general, and Christians have a hard time with that.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
pretty direct.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I was raised Catholic too. So
Yeah.
it was always seen as like this cute chicanery thing.
yeah,
And not like, okay, so what does it really look like by someone who practices?
who's doing it? Yeah,
it,
for real.
right.
Yeah, exactly. And so my first experience was being here, like at Yoga Farm.
Oh, okay.
Really was kind of the first time anyone was like, "Can I pull cards for you?" Like, you want me to pull your cards? I was like, sure,
Yeah.
But every time I've ever seen him in movies, it's always bad news.
Right.
Like it's always a bad omen.
I
It's
know,
like,
right.
messing like with, and that's maybe why I've also stayed away from it. I'm a big guy. I don't want to know the bad things that are coming. I'd rather it's like, that's why I don't go to the doctor. It's like, I'm just kidding. That's why I put going to the doctor off, because I'm like, I feel great. I
Right.
feel fine. If something's wrong, like,
Yeah,
it'll figure itself out.
Yeah, I should get warning. Everything's fine.
No,
Yeah, but you're right. It's funny that like you don't often, and that's like I remember the first time or every time. Sometimes it's Jeannie's mother that usually reads my cards. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what do you want to know? I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like what I learned is a good like overall question is like to say, tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, that's
so it's
great.
like inviting in information or inviting in some things without having to be uber specific and just like, that's a good question. I'm going to lean on that one. There are different spreads.
Oh,
there's all these like, different way to lay the cards out, and like that's fascinating to me.
Well, you know what I think about it as is like kind of like a fork in the road moment, like where it's like it's giving you perspective about your life that even if it's say it's not true, right? Say it's somebody who's just like they know what they mean, and it is sort of happenstance. They pull them, and that's what you get, and but it could be the thing you need to hear to alter, the timeline,
the choice
in a way, right? And without that information, you wouldn't have it, and so even. That I like that. I like that kind of open-ended spirituality in a certain way.
There's always this moment where like a card is pulled and it's like, this is interesting. This is this card. I'm like,
oh no.
What does that mean? Oh my god, what do you Yeah. There's moments like that. I try to keep my cool, but inside I'm just like inner turmoil, like, oh my god,
it's
what
like
the
death.
heck could this be?
Right.
And then it's like I secretly sometimes have this like, oh, look at this when I get a good card.
Right.
Oh, this card is the sun in this place. So I'm like, yeah,
that's right. Good things coming, baby. We're celebrating.
Yeah. So I mean, I almost always would love. It's so fascinating.
It is,
and especially by someone who has experience doing it, knows what they're doing, and like, you know what I mean. It's not like fortune telling. It's like so interesting, and I could have it. I love having my cards pulled or pulling cards or having them read. It's fascinating.
It is.
And
it's
another
very cool.
Another thing is like the spells.
So I don't have any experience in that.
I've witnessed.
Okay.
Some spells were like, okay, we're gonna do this for this reason, and I've seen it fairly recently, where it's essentially like. The example that I just witnessed was like, we are going to do this, and Jeannie did this, and she reached out to other people too, because it's like power, strength in numbers. So it's like, we're going to do this spell for this purpose, and it was for someone who had lots of negative energy to stop having the negative energy or go away, right, essentially. And the spell was done, I swear to God, and the goddess, that the changes they were looking for happened like within 24 to 36 hours.
Whoa.
It was like, and I like, it was, I was like, this is a good outcome. I'm almost scared how quickly it came.
Yeah, right.
This is also a very potent, powerful. I'm like, oh my God. I'm almost like in awe. I'm just like, oh my God. I am just
scared.
I mean, like, awe is the good word. So maybe not scared. I'm not terrified, but I'm just like, holy mother of God, that was fast and accurate, and that's exactly what you were looking for.
My wife is powerful.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, that is definitely.
That's kind of what I came away with.
Yeah, you better not make her mad.
I try, and sometimes it still happens.
It's impossible.
You know why? It's because we're dudes.
We're dudes. We're just dudes trying to make some steaks. That's all we are.
And this is one of those things. I was kind of like reading about and dabbled in, because there was like, I found this book. It was like called The Pagan's Way or something, but it was about like ancient practices and spiritual, like nature-based spirituality.
Yeah.
And it was just so, and it was like it kind of dealt with and talked about some of the spells that she was talking about, or I've seen her talk about, and that's another like level I think I could get into of like how fascinating these like practices are, or like the old gods and goddesses. Like I remember reading about the goddess Bridget.
Okay.
And I was like, I all of a sudden want to get a flaming arrow tattoo on my arm.
Yeah,
like, I want to add that, because it was just like, it just was, and I can't really remember any of the details, but it was just like such a connection, and the idea that like this deity has been like acknowledged, worshipped for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
And like that is always fascinating too. Now, is there any part of you, because I grew up Catholic, is there any part of you that is still like, ugh?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Oh my God. Like I mean, even that even happens to me at just Kundalini stuff.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I'm like when I'm chanting for a really long time, I'm like, this is kind of like church. Right. And I'm like, oh no. And then I'm like, who cares? Like whatever, dude. And it's really like, I think, I've come to an a place in my life making peace with all of that.
Mm.
And still, sometimes I'm like, I get the irk.
Right.
Like,
It's almost that it's like we haven't unlearned that.
No.
And it's not, it's like totally a reflex.
Oh, it is.
And
it's not like, it's not a thought. It's
no,
like
it's just like the feel, like you
Yeah.
feel it somewhere in here.
Yep.
Where that
It's
upbringing
guilt.
was just
It's
like,
that guilt.
it's just like, it's like that guilt and upbringing is like, we're going to leave this little muscle spasm
that's
inside
right,
you to give
yeah.
that little, huh?
No, this is
okay.
wrong.
I had that thought when at the beginning of my transcendental meditation, my teacher did a ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very short. It was maybe 5 to 8 minutes. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, there is so much of what I'm watching that is like I witnessed in other Catholic practices.
Yeah,
as far as
absolutely.
like, there was water involved, and
Mhm.
there was like other things involved. I'm like, it's just like it blew my. I thought of Joseph Campbell and like
Yeah.
the one myth, right? The world myth about
Right.
like how similar all these
Worship.
worship
Mhm.
practices are. Like
Yeah.
they're so different, but they're also like there's so much they have in common.
Well, that was pulled. Like it's
Yeah.
like what was created first.
Right.
Like it's a pretty. Humans are original, but not that original. Like it's like one of those things where
Right.
in describing God, and that's one of the things that helped me in my own like faith journey. Essentially, is like understanding that like I don't know, and like that's part of it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like and that's okay. And and my ancestors, my own lineage has been putting prayer towards a particular direction for a long time now.
Right.
And so like that feels right for me. And like that's in my I would say that energy being spent that way
Yeah.
is not wasted no matter what religion you're in. And I think that when you're because like we're saying, it's a ceremony. It's like it's a celebration or a ritual or a reverence, right? That we're trying to have for a purpose. And so no matter what, there are certain things that affect us and move us, and we're
Right.
made of water.
Yeah.
Like what
It's
we
like-
eat, what we are. Like so it makes sense to me. And I'll never forget. I took a art history class my first year of college. It really kind of got me moving in this direction, because it was like, all right, so let's go back in time, and we literally went through from like the earliest cave portraits, like that kind of artwork, through like the Renaissance and all that. And my teacher was so good that he was pointing out all along the way, like the connections. Like,
Right.
oh, this is the first time we ever saw the idea of a monotheistic God. Guess how many more times we're going to see that? Like, it's like, and that was a change forever. It
Right.
actually changed it forever from this moment,
know.
like kind of is when it happened. And we're all, we're so energetic, like, and I think that, but we do have that. If you grow up in the Catholic Church, especially,
Right.
my Lord, is there a lot of like, you better not. And not only that, but don't associate with anything other than
Right.
the Catholic
That
Church,
was like that was me during college and after college of like this is a way,
Mhm.
and grew up being told and learning is like this is the way.
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of thing,
Oh,
where
yeah.
It's like so, but I'm like, well, this other way seems really. You guys share a lot of things between the ways.
And it's like, how can we possibly? I mean, it's a pretty narcissistic idea to think that you are the right ones,
Right.
After all of history,
What are the odds?
after all of history, like everyone else is wrong and we're right, and like that kind of mentality is pretty old world,
Right.
Like that's a pretty
Yeah.
old world thinking. That's before the internet thinking. Like
Yeah.
that's before we knew what a teenager thought in Palestine.
Right,
Like
yeah.
it's like we are all kind of connected now in a way that is so much more linear and like kind of connected that my parents never knew anything about other countries or like
Yeah,
any other religions
yeah.
or anything
Wasn't
like that.
really
They
a
didn't have
concern,
the
yeah.
access, and so because I've had that conversation with my parents, like how come nobody in your generation is religious? And I'm like, I think it's awareness. It's like awareness of other faiths and like not really the desire to ostracize anyone else. Like it's like, I don't know. Do you know? And that's like this. I don't need to know.
No,
Like it's
yeah,
like, but
it's like the inquiry for me is exciting and interesting. 'Cause
absolutely.
I always go back to Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
And like the mythology for me, and like world myths and mythology is always realized my connection to the spiritual.
Yeah,
right? Like
totally.
I can
The
connect.
stories.
I can connect to those stories from all over the world. Like that's why I'm just so fascinated with like world myths.
Totally.
And this is why how I explain like when everyone talks about like the Marvel movies and they're like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, for me, man, this is America's mythology. This is America's myths. And
It
like,
is.
This is like, are they silly and fun? Yeah, but there's also something to them.
Yeah.
They share threads with other world myths, and
they didn't come from nowhere.
They didn't come from nowhere.
That's for sure. Their
Right.
stories being retold.
And a lot of this is like, especially like the rituals and the spells. It's like like Jeannie's using words that I've never heard of.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
Me too.
Tell me more. This is fascinating.
Totally. Piques your interest because you're working that muscle out.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think props to us.
Hey, man, we're doing good.
I think we are. I think we're doing
pretty
good.
open-minded with our beautiful wives.
Yeah.
And, we're lucky to have them. And so we'll put up with any witchy stuff. Be as witchy as you want, hippie as you want. It's all good.
I know. It's please forgive our initial mild scoffs from time to time.
Yeah.
I don't think those are ever going to go away.
Just know now I'm making fun of you as a joke.
Right. No, deep down in our heart of hearts, we appreciate, we greet these with reverence and intention and the willingness. And just know that also when we are experiencing these, we are outside of our comfort zone a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's where the joke comes from.
Absolutely.
Right? That's
oh,
where
my God, 100%.
The poking fun
yes.
is because it's like outside of the comfort zone.
Yep.
It makes us a little uncomfortable. And as I get older, it's more of like, okay, maybe I won't make a little tee-hee-hee joke, and I'll say, you know what? Maybe I will dive into this
seriously for a
right.
second. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's only been 10 years.
Yeah.
So maybe, by your
there. I think it's time.
Well, we're getting there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're getting there.
I think we're doing
Good
pretty
work.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for the Wi-Fi pod, again, support at yogafarm.us or Matt at yogafarm.us for questions, comments. We love hearing from you.
That's right.
So thank you for being with us on Dudecast 2.0.
That's right. We'll be back again, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
That's right.
I mean, it's going to be us next week because
Yep.
Jeannie's still going to be gone.
That's
but I think we'll have someone else
We'll have
next week.
somebody too.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
we'll be back.
Well, this is Matt.
And this is Josh.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.